Have you ever had a moment so perfectly wrong, it felt like a scene from a movie you never wanted to star in? I was standing there, in the lobby of the Drake Hotel, just off Magnificent Mile, a bouquet of lilies wilting in my hand. It was our anniversary. There she was, my wife Eliza, laughing, her head tilted back, her hand resting on another man's arm. But that wasn't what broke me. It was the watch on his wrist. My watch, the one my father gave me on his deathbed. A limited edition Patek Philippe. The man caught my eye, smirked, and tapped the crystal face twice. A silent, smug gesture. How did my life become this cheap, cruel punchline? If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. Our story began like a Chicago fairy tale. I was a rising architect. She was a curator at the Art Institute. We met at a gala, fell in love over deep dish pizza and long walks along the lakefront. Our condo in Lincoln Park, with its skyline view, was our sanctuary. For 10 years, I believed we were invincible. I adored her. I would have torn down buildings for her, redrawn the entire city's skyline if she'd asked. To me, Eliza was perfect. Slow poison of betrayal doesn't announce its arrival. It starts subtly. A missed call here, a working late text there. At first, I was the supportive husband. Her new project, a contemporary art exhibit, was demanding, she said. I understood. I made her dinner, ran her baths, told her how proud I was. I was a fool. The little oddities started piling up. Credit card charges for dinners at Alinea I wasn't invited to. Receipts from boutiques on Oak Street for lingerie I never saw. She'd come home smelling of a cologne that wasn't mine, a faint spicy scent that clung to her hair. When I asked, she'd just laugh it off. Oh, you and your overactive imagination. It was a crowded client dinner. Her excuses were always plausible, delivered with a confident smile that made me feel insane for even questioning her. She started turning her phone face down. The password, once our anniversary date, was changed. For work security, she'd said, not even looking at me. The distance between us grew from inches on the bed to a chasm I couldn't cross. The loving, passionate woman I married was replaced by a cold, irritable stranger. She found fault in everything I did, the way I loaded the dishwasher, the movies I picked, the sound of my breathing. She was pushing me away, building a wall brick by brick, and I was too love-blind to see she was trapping me on the outside. One night the mask slipped. I'd planned a surprise for her, booking a weekend at a spa resort in Lake Geneva. When I told her, she didn't even look up from her phone. I can't. I have a work retreat that weekend. Her voice was flat, devoid of any emotion. My heart sank. Elisa, we haven't spent a real weekend together in months. She finally looked at me, her eyes cold steel. My career is important, Michael. God, you used to understand that. Maybe you're just not ambitious enough to get it anymore. The words were like a physical blow. She was twisting my love and support into a weapon, painting me as a failure to justify her own deception. That night she slept in the guest room. I lay awake in our cold, empty bed, the silence screaming louder than any argument. The doubt I'd been suppressing finally broke free, a tidal wave of nausea and fear. I knew. I didn't have proof, but I knew. The breakdown came a week later. I found a valet ticket from the Waldorf Astoria, tucked into her sun visor, dated for a night she was supposedly at an all-night installation. I went into the bathroom and just slid down the wall, gasping for air. The grief was suffocating. I cried for the man I was, the happy, trusting husband. I cried for the life I thought we had. And as I sat there on the cold marble floor, something inside me shifted. The pain didn't disappear, but it crystallized. It turned from a messy, hot grief into something cold, hard, and sharp. A diamond of pure rage. I wasn't going to be the pathetic, crying husband, no. I was going to be the architect of her ruin. My grief became my fuel. My architectural mind, trained to see blueprints and structural integrity, started designing a different kind of project, downloaded a keylogger onto her laptop. I placed a discreet GPS tracker in her car. I became a ghost in my own home, a silent observer gathering evidence. The texts were a gut punch. Can't wait to see you, Mark. Last night was incredible. He has no idea that he was me. The other man was Mark, a wealthy venture capitalist on the museum's board. The pictures they sent each other were vulgar, a desecration of the intimacy I thought was ours alone. I saw my wife, my Elisa, in hotel rooms across the city, doing things that shattered my soul, but I didn't flinch. I saved everything. Every text, every photo, every GPS location stamp. I compiled it all into a meticulously organized file. I labeled the project. I learned that their work retreat was a planned trip to Paris. That's when the second phase of my plan began. While they were planning their romantic getaway, I was meeting with the best divorce lawyer in Chicago. Showed her the file. Her eyes widened. "This is comprehensive," she said. "We planned everything. Quietly moved all my assets into a protected trust. I took out a loan against our shared condo, a detail Eliza, in her self-absorbed bliss, never noticed. I contacted a PI to get photographic evidence of them together, not just pixelated phone snaps. The PI delivered gold, crystal clear photos of them kissing on the steps of the Chicago Cultural Center, holding hands in Millennium Park, entering the Waldorf Astoria together. The final piece of the legal puzzle was the watch. I reported it stolen weeks earlier, providing the police with the serial number and a detailed description. I knew Mark was arrogant enough to wear it publicly. It was a trophy to him. The night of the big contemporary art exhibit, her career-defining moment, was my D-Day. It was a black tie affair at the museum. The mayor was there, critics from New York, the city's elite. Liza was radiant in a shimmering gown, holding court like a queen. She barely acknowledged my presence. Mark was by her side, her esteemed colleague, and on his wrist, gleaming under the gallery lights, was my father's watch. I let them enjoy the applause, let them soak in the praise. I watched as Eliza gave her speech, thanking the board, the artists, and, with a brief, dismissive nod, my husband for his patience. Then, as she stepped off the podium to a standing ovation, my plan went into motion. First, 2 uniformed Chicago police officers walked calmly through the crowd and approached Mark. "Sir, we have a report of a stolen item in your possession." The crowd went silent. Mark's smug face turned pale as they pointed to the watch. He stammered, looking at Eliza for help, but she just stared, frozen in horror. As they escorted a protesting Mark out in handcuffs for possession of stolen property valued at over $50,000, the room erupted in whispers. That was my cue. A massive screen behind the podium, which had been displaying abstract art, flickered.
Ow.
Then it lit up with the contents of the project. Text messages, GPS maps of their trysts, high-resolution photos of them kissing, of them entering hotel rooms. The whispers turned to gasps. The entire social and financial fabric of Chicago was watching Eliza's world burn to the ground. She looked at me from across the room, her face a mask of disbelief and pure, unadulterated hatred. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just held her gaze, my expression completely blank, and gave a single, slow nod. A process server then materialized at her side and handed her a thick envelope. Divorce papers. In the ensuing chaos, I simply turned and walked out of the museum, leaving the smoldering ashes of her life behind me. I never saw her again. The divorce was swift. She got nothing, the prenup held, and my evidence of infidelity was ironclad. Her reputation was destroyed. She was fired from the museum. Her social circle abandoned her. Mark, facing a felony and public humiliation, cut all ties. The last I heard, she had moved back to her parents' small town somewhere in Ohio. I still live in the condo, with its beautiful, empty view of the skyline. Sometimes, late at night, I take my father's watch out of its box. The police returned it to me a week after the exhibit. I just hold it. It doesn't tick anymore. It's been quiet for a very long time. The end.